shouldn't necessarily involve write-offs and tax losses for an investor. So in order to attract those types of investors, especially in today's environment, you have to have a pretty strong foundation on a business viewpoint. I think we can go into more later.
All right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Valerie?
Hi, I'm Valerie McCaffrey. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for showing up. My background is in casting, and I started out as was at Universal for 8 years. I was director of casting there, and then I became vice president of casting at New Line Cinema for New Line and Fine Line. I've traveled basically all over the world to putting movies together, and have overseen hundreds upon hundreds of films, both in the international market and here in the United States. In 2000, I left New Line, and I ended up becoming an independent film casting director, which I love the independent world. I found it quite challenging, the material, and even more challenging putting movies together. At Universal, what they would do is they'd make the movie first, and then they would market it. And then at New Line, they'd have to get approval for marketing, and then they would make the movie. So it was an interesting, difference between a studio, a big studio, to a smaller studio. I really believe that you have to have a movie to market before you can make it. So when I do my casting business, I end up thinking in terms of the marketing of the film. And it's very important because, Michael first said, you don't have a movie that anybody wants to see, and you don't have the P&A to get the movie seen, then there's no use making it. In my opinion. So right now, as I got more and more into the independent world, people came to me to put their films together, and I found a real talent for also being able to attach directors and put the movies together in other ways, hence, producing, and actually found money and put a film together that's, like Neo-Ned, that stars Jeremy Renner, that's just coming out in Hurt Locker. I don't know if any of you've seen that movie. But, finding people that are on the verge of becoming great is also very important in my world. And to having a pulse on what's out there, because obviously your talent is going to drive your film. People always say, okay, and I know a lot of these, sales people that give you numbers on your films always say, well, who's in your movie? Who's in your movie? What's your movie about, and who's in it? So that's a very important part of what we do, is making sure that the movie is marketable, that you have great actors, that they can, Wayne said, it's a business. So you need to be able to, your investor, whoever's going to be giving you money, wants to see his money returned, and even more than that. So, okay, that's it.
Thanks, Valerie.
Okay.
Craig?
Thank you very much. My name is Craig Sheftell. I am Managing Director of Fallbrook Credit Finance. Our specialty is doing tax incentives, state tax incentives, which is a intricate part of the finance chain. Anybody who's been trying to finance their picture should be looking at states where there is a tax incentive. There are 14 states that have transferable credits. That's where if you go to that state and you make a movie, they'll give you anywhere from 20 to 30% of your spend that you spend in the state in the form of a tax credit. And you're able to sell that credit to a qualified buyer, either a corporate buyer or an individual buyer, depending on what state it's in. The trick to getting the tax credits funded on a pre-funding basis, and we do pre-fund those credits, is that you have to have all your other financing in place to start with, and you have to be bonded. So it's very important that you line up your gap financing, you line up your equity financing, make sure that your picture is bonded. I want to give a little plug to Entertainment Partners. We work very closely with them. If you're not familiar with them, they are a leader in the industry for doing payroll services and production services. But they also have a wonderful website where you can go to that website. Joe Chinganess is the head of that group. You can see exactly what states offer on the transferable side, and then there's a lot of states that offer rebates also. So you can get 100% of your money back if you funded your picture completely and you go to a state like New Mexico or Michigan. You can get somewhere between 30 and 40% against your credit there on what you spend, and the state will actually write you a check and send it back to you. Our specialty is selling the credits. We have a lot of buyers for those credits in those states, so we can fund the credit. We can pre-fund the credit and give you an opportunity to finance your picture and use that as part of the financing. But that's the key to everything. Financing's everything. Anybody who finances a movie and gets it made deserves an Oscar. Because it's the hardest thing to do is get your picture funded. And we're there to help. We like the business a lot, and we think that this is a great opportunity that the states have offered filmmakers to come to their state and make movies, and they're willing to help you pay for it. They'll pay for it in one form or another.
I always like having that investor approve a list, so that whoever we end up going out to, whether it's 5 people on a list or 6 people on a list, that one of those 6 that he'll continue to be interested in putting his money for it.
Let me just jump in for a second. I think that these 2 people, if you're a young filmmaker or you're a filmmaker, are 2 of the most important people in the beginning of the process, because they can tell you in independent filmmaking, foreign distribution is really one of the most important factors. This gentleman can tell you what type of actor or a list of actors that sell overseas. This young lady can tell you which actors are right for the roles. So if you can go to them first and say, read my script, or pay them to read your script and get a feedback, they can tell you if you're wasting. Because I think you do waste a lot of time, because everybody in this room is an optimist. They want to make it happen. It's going to happen, but you got to figure out how to make it happen. But I think as a financier, I like somebody to come to me with a complete package. So if they've done their homework and they've gone to casting, they've gone to foreign distribution, and they tell you, here are the people that you should get into this picture so I can actually sell the picture, then you're going to be able to figure out what your budget really is. And as Bianca said, that's the most important thing. What's your budget? Because then you can figure out how you're going to finance it. But there's so many moving parts to this entire industry, and figuring out, can your film make money? Because a lot of films don't make money. A lot of films don't get distribution. A lot of films end up in garage. Yeah, most. A lot of them end up in a garage, and it's a great effort. But I think that these 2 people here, that's who you got to talk to first. And then you can determine what your budget is, and